Exercise 2-1. Welcome to CAD 118, Advanced AutoCAD. And today we're going to look at Module 2, Practice 2-1, Basic Solid Shapes and 3D Object Snap. And so we're going to start AutoCAD. We're going to open up this Practice 2-1 drawing file. We're going to create a pyramid according to the specifications here, a cylinder, and another cylinder. And we're going to use 3DO snaps, and we're going to use solid primitives to create those different objects. Then we're going to create a rectangle, and then we're going to move that rectangle here on the flagpole. I've also added a title block, and I'll leave this as optional for this point so that it dresses the drawing up and we can submit that to the Dropbox. All right, so let's get started. We can download the file required for this exercise right here. And I'll open that. And so it's just a blank template. It's got model space as the default setting. I'm going to make sure that my menu bar is enabled. And so I have the ability to turn the menu bar off, show my menu bar. I like to work with grids and snaps just from the starting. So I'm going to go to Drafting Settings, Snap and Grid, and I'll turn on the snap at 1. And I'll put the grid on at 10. I'll enable polar tracking. And what that will do is it'll give me these lines that allow me to use direct distance input. I'll go with the defaults for OSnap, and then I'll have 3D OSnap enabled along with object snap tracking enabled. And then I'll go to the pyramid command, and I'll get the pyramid command. And let me grab my textbook on that. And so when we create the pyramid, it's going to be 4 sides with a top radius of 30. And that's an option that needs to be enabled while we're creating that pyramid. And so we'll create the pyramid according to those specifications. This is what's known as a pyramid primitive. And so we'll get pyramid. I'm going to put it right at 0, just from a standpoint of tying this into machines. I often find that if you have the zeros aligned in the CAD system, they can align on machine systems as well. And so here's the 0, X and Y coordinate. You don't have to. It's just good practice. And then I'll pull this out to a radius of 30. And you can just type that in. You don't have to snap to it. And then as I start to bring this up, I'm going to hit the down arrow and select top radius. And you can either select top radius using the floating input commands, or you can use the command line input for top radius. But you do need to choose that option, or you won't be able to specify a different top option for the radius. And that will be 15. And so again, I'm going to track that out in the same direction, and then I'm going to say 15. And then for the height, we're going to make that 25. Alrighty, and then the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to create a cylinder. The cylinder geometry is pretty straightforward. It's going to be a radius of 10 and a height of 50. With our OSnap, 3D OSnaps enabled, we can gravitate to that point, select it, bring out to our radius of 10. And then as we push that up into the Z direction, we're going to enter 50. And we're going to repeat that same process for another cylinder. It's just going to be thinner and taller. And so it's going to be 2.5 and 75. And then finally, we're going to create the geometry for the solid box. And that is going to be 60 by 2.5 by 30 with respect to length, width, and height. And those inputs will just be prompted as you go through. So you can go here to the primitive for box, bring it down on the screen, click the starting point, input the length, and our length is going to be 60. Our width is going to be 2.5. And then our height is going to be 75. And I made that height too high. It should be 30. Now I can click on this arrow here and bring that down and then input that value of 30. And so you can edit the solids. It's different than parametric softwares like SolidWorks where you go into the feature and you update the dimensions within that. In AutoCAD, you'll use these grip and sub-object editing. Now that we have that, we're going to move it. And you can use just a regular move command. You don't have to go into the move gizmo and use some of these fancier 3D move. In fact, the regular move command works best. And so what you do is you select the move command, select the object to move, hit enter. And then the best point to pick this up is in the midpoint right here. So I'm going to select that, and then I'm going to bring that over to the part here. It doesn't really say if it wants it at the midpoint or if it is at the quadrant. I'm going to put it at the quadrant. And if I look at it, it's okay. You know, if I was going to 3D print this, this would be a problem because it would probably break. It wouldn't have enough material to hold it there. So let's move it again, and let's move it to the midpoint, to the center. And so again, we can say move, select that, hit enter, acquire, acquire. There we go. And now this is a valid geometry if we didn't need to. Let's say we were going to put this on top of a trophy or something like that and then put somebody's name on that. We could do that. And I typically would union this together just so that the pieces don't come apart. And so if we union it, everything is fused together now, and we keep it as one piece for production-wise. Go to layout mode. Here we are. Layout mode. Layout mode is the frame for your drawings. And so this is what we would be able to input on paper, output on paper. And what I like to do is I like to put a title block on them so that it dresses it up a little bit. We have title blocks in the D2L system here for you. And so if you go to the title blocks, you can download the B-size mech. And I'm just going to leave that in my downloads and insert it into the drawing. To insert a title block onto a drawing that wasn't started with a template, what you do is you right-click on the Layout tab and you say From Template, and then you have to navigate over to where you put that. And so I'm going to go to my downloads. There it is, my title block. You can put a name on the layout. I'm just going to leave the default. And there's my Oakton title block. And so these are the default layouts. And then we added a layout with the company name and title on that. And then we just want to orientate that with a 3D view, southeast isometric. 3D, you don't necessarily have to lock in a scale. So we're not going to, we'll lock it, but we'll just leave it scaled to whatever it came up with. And then I like to put a visual style on there. Conceptual. double click outside of the title block. We'll call this flag. And then this will be lab 2-1. Be sure to put your name on it and then save that file and submit it to the Dropbox. Alrighty, this completes this lab exercise.